I was in the Toys R Us just not far from Rangers from my Ibrox.
Hmm.
And I was basically told in no uncertain terms to put all the stuff down that I had in and get out the store by Rangers supporters. After the first one, it hit me. The first Old Firm game, because again, yeah, you can't walk down the street when you lose an Old Firm game. You can't walk down the street for two sets of fans. One, the team that's beaten you, Rangers, and two, your own supporters are kind of mucky on you as well. But I think the hard things that you learn about. I mean, I remember being in Toys R Us with my two children just prior to Christmas, and I didn't realise the extent of the animosity. And I was in the Toys R Us just not far from Rangers from Ibrox,
Hmm.
and I was basically told in no uncertain terms to put all the stuff down that I had in and get out the store by Rangers supporters. Um, and that can be quite frightening and intimidating. And that doesn't. Do you know what? That doesn't even stop now. I know when I'm in a room with someone has got a Glaswegian accent. I know whether he supports Celtic or Rangers or not because they either talks to me or he doesn't. It doesn't change even now.
I mean,
I was in a lift in Coogee literally 2 weeks ago in Sydney, and this gentleman got in and he said hello, and I could tell straight away tell he had an accent. And he went, "Oh, I support Rangers, by the way." And I said, "That's all right. It's not a problem." Shook his hand and got out of the lift. It was relief, Ian, because there had been so much pressure. And like I said to you at the start of this interview, I went in really naive. By the end of that season, everybody was fully aware of what it meant, as you said, because of the number 10. But I can remember just being relieved after the final whistle against St Johnstone. And I think there's a video of the game that was done, and it basically all it did was pan around the supporters. I've got a copy of it somewhere at home, and when you watch that and you see the fear on all the Celtic supporters' faces that if St Johnstone at any point score and it goes to 1-1 and Rangers are winning, I think it was away at Talos at the point, that our whole world could be shattered in one moment. And I felt it tremendously at half time against St Johnstone. I'd had a little nervy moment where I'd got a little touch on a ball and Georgie Boyle it skimmed off the top of his balding head and went over. I got away with one. And I remember just going into the dressing room at half time. It was a hot day, and I just put this towel on my head. It'd been in an ice bucket, and I just wanted for 10 minutes. I didn't want to hear anything. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to get my focus back on what my job was in the second half. Uh, I looked like a little bit like a tennis player at Wimbledon, I think, in the corner of my dressing room. And then I remember coming out, and I think they didn't really have any opportunities. And I can just remember the ball getting played down the channel by, I think it was Boydie or Jackie McNamara, one of the two. Then the cross coming in, and there was Harold, who hadn't had a brilliant season, had come with an amazing reputation, but was a fabulous person. And he just stroked it home as if it meant nothing. And at that moment, uh, that was when the relief started. Uh, and that's when I started enjoying the game, to be honest. I think at Celtic Park, it's not so much because you at both ends you've got your supporters. So I always used to actually enjoy a little bit of a jump up in the air. I remember I think in a 6-2 game later on in my career there, I was running around like a headless chicken when the sixth went on. But I can remember celebrating with the supporters when it went in 2-0 on that occasion. But I also know that you very quickly you have to get your head in gear to be able to deal with what the next decision you've got to make is. So you as much as you love that adrenaline rush, you have a little one, and then you have to refocus. And that again, as a Celtic goalkeeper, the key is to maintain that concentration for 90 minutes, because we as goalkeepers, you don't have lots of saves to make. You have two or three big ones, or you have two or three big decisions to make in the game, which keeps the score level or makes you make sure that you're still 1-0 up. And then your team are going to go and do it at the other end. So you can enjoy a little bit of a moment, but you have to be so switched on after that. I think something that's probably innate. I think you can give them little triggers. One of my triggers at Celtic was the water bottle was always in my right hand post, and whenever we had a corner or a set play in the opposition's half, uh, I'd go and have a little drink from my water bottle, and then I'd walk to my penalty spot and say to myself, right, I'm switching on now in case there's a counter attack from the corner. So I think you can give youngsters triggers, but I still ultimately, I think it's got to be an inherent part of your character that you can focus and you understand what your role is in those moments. And I think now you look at the players that the two latest two goalkeepers in Joe Hart, Schmeichel, they've had massive careers, yet they still consider these times that they're having probably going to be some of the best they've ever had. It's just adrenaline, it's just this, and because it becomes kind of it's not a process, but you just go through this routine, and you know when they're going to start singing the Celtic song, you know when they're going to start singing, Walk On, and you know that roar when you walk out the tunnel or run out the tunnel as a player. And then even more so, you hear the roar, I'm watching from my end, and, someone sticks the ball, and whenever Henrik scored, there was an almighty roar. So I think it's just, I feel very privileged to have experienced that. Yeah, yeah. I need them now, I know that much. I used to hate pre-season. My dad used to tell me I was one of the worst pre-season players he'd ever worked with, because I wanted the motivation of supporters, whether it was the opposition giving me some kind of stick, or whether it was my supporters and me wanting to prove to them that, I was the best person to have in the back of their net as such. I think you just don't want to drown when you come across big crowds, and I wasn't one for that. I think it was a thrill for me.